My name is Drew Waldron, and you're listening to Niche Talks, a podcast series meant to explore creatives of all different mediums. Today's guest is Andrew Vickers. Andrew is a stand-up comedian and actor, best known for his work in the Boston comedy scene. He and I met while working together on an indie movie in Boston, but I found out that very week that he was moving to Austin, Texas to further his comedy career. This is Niche Talks. To support the show, please consider liking, reviewing, and subscribing. And now, without further delay, here's my interview with Andrew Vickers.
So the last time we talked, you were about to move to Austin, and you're still there now, right? I saw that you were back in Boston for a bit, but you're still mainly based in Austin?
Yeah, I'm here now. We moved here November 1st. So, dude, I moved out the day after we recorded, the day
That's
after
great.
we wrapped on the film.
Yeah,
I
you were
went
on your
home.
way out. That must have been
Yeah, it
strange, right?
was hectic. Yeah, it was hectic, but it's good to be here. Dude, it's a weird, have you been here before?
Never been to Austin, but like I know how big the comedy scene has gotten there post-COVID. I know it's just been a huge explosion for comedy.
Yeah, the comedy scene is huge. The city itself is one of the weirdest places I've ever been, dude.
How so?
I mean, it's just like it's essentially at its core, it's a city like before a lot of like tech moved here and comedy and stuff. There were a lot of things happening, but a lot of it was like very artsy and cool. And people, the vibe is very chill. No one's really doing anything. It doesn't have this like squirrely East Coast energy that we have, and on the East Coast where everyone's like trying to do something. People are just like, oh, just chill, dude, get a tattoo, smoke a J. And that's kind of the vibe. But then it's also not really Denver. It's Austin. So it's just like a wasteland. It's a strange place. It's cool. The people are very cool. The food is great. But it's a weird place. You kind of feel like you're getting scammed because you're going to get coffee and you're like walking up to like a shipping container and there's a dude behind the counter and you're like, hey, can I get a coffee? He's like, yeah, I think so, dude. And I think I work here. It's crazy.
I feel like that's a weird dichotomy because I feel like after all like the tech people move there and all the entertainment people move there, I feel like they would have brought that, you described it as an East Coast, but I'm sure there's plenty of it in like LA or California and like the
Yeah.
entertainment scene that like would have come to Austin. Do you feel like there's something at odds
I
there?
think there's more now. Yeah, I think there's more now. I was talking to someone last night. He put it very succinctly. He put it very well, where he was like, it's not really, there is a lot of that energy here, but it's not really cool to try. It's like the way to be cool is to like not try. And that's the culture and the vibe. But then of course it's pretty multicultural too. It's like we're not far from Mexico. It's very like strong Mexican culture here as well. So it's an interesting place. It's not like I've never been anywhere like it. It's hard to get used to, but I am starting to like it. And the comedy, as you said, is prolific. But yeah, like I guess what makes it hard is trying to get used to the city. Because like the first week I moved here, I was in Miami that weekend, and so I didn't even do like shows in the city that I had moved to for the first week and a half. So yeah, but I'm trying to do it. I'm just trying to meet people, and get to know everyone because, the scene is a whole new set of people,
Yeah, a lot of networking to be done. I still am just like amazed. Ever since we met, I did a pretty deep dive through your page and looking at some of the comedy that you have available online. And like I told you before when we first met that I tried doing stand up about like 6 or 7 times, and
That's
I
right.
found it to be one of the most difficult things that I've ever like tried to do. And I'm not someone who has difficulty getting up on stage or performing or doing anything like that, but I find it so insanely hard.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it's also not, it's not, the skills that you need to do it are not like the good skills. You know what I mean? Like none of the skills that you want in life, like organization and like a killer instinct and attention to details, not some like these are the vulgar skills, being loud and garish and needing to be the center of attention. So you should probably be happy that it didn't come naturally. You should be like, this is compliment on your character. You have more things to offer.
That's good, I guess. I feel like you're not a loud and garish guy, though. You even told me before that like people have told you that you have a quote speak when spoken to
Oh yeah,
vibe around you.
that's true. That's true. I do have that too. Maybe that's what we need more of. Maybe we need like nice, sweet little boys more in the entertainment industry. Maybe would you call that the Chalamet? Would you call that doing a Chalamet when you're like a sweetie? I don't know what he's like. Could be. Excuse me, I have a
I
hair
don't
in
know
my
what he's
mouth.
like either, but like with the recent press wave he's been on, where he's just been doing a bunch of like whack stuff for the Bob Dylan movie that he's in.
That's true.
He just seems
See?
like a bro. He seems like a safe bro.
Yeah, he does.
Well, before I even like go into this situation, I want to just like ask this blanket question. Do you think that audience behavior has gotten worse at comedy shows? Because me and my friend were talking, and we were talking about how like the last several live stand-up shows that we've been to, like ticketed stand-up shows, like audience behavior has been just like awful. People have been like screaming, trying to be part of the show. Are you seeing that much, or is that just like an isolated thing for us?
I'm not seeing it for me. I mean, it doesn't happen for me that much, but I can see certainly why it's happening at like the bigger names because of how big the crowd work stuff got over the
That's what I
past
was
couple of
going
years.
to. That's what I was
Yeah,
leading up to because the thesis was like crowd work stuff on TikTok is so big and it's how like people primarily engage
yeah.
with stand-up content online that people think they have to be part of the show now.
Exactly. Yeah, the crowd work stuff got like so big, and then you could be just like you could be like a good looking middle aged lady, and like Matt Rife is going to talk to you. So why not start the conversation yourself? It's like it's not a bad strategy. I mean, you can have a good time, and I get it. A lot of people I think that crowd work is mostly what stand up is, and they go to shows with that expectation, not knowing that the majority of stand up is not that. Although there's more now than there has been. I think a lot of people at my level, which is like the amateur level, feel pressure to incorporate crowd work into their act, which is not a bad thing. It's good to have that in your bag. It's good to have a diverse bag. You're in the world of like everything essentially. So it's like, it's good to have this skill, even if you don't need to use it. But it does seem like people are going to shows expecting it more now. Um, have the shows that I've been doing been particularly rowdy? I don't think so. None of the shows actually that we've had to kick anyone out of.
Hmm.
The last time I had to kick anyone out of a show was like 3 years ago in Boston.
Oh, really?
So
You
yeah,
personally had to kick them out or like
yeah. I was working the door, and I did the opening set, and the headliner was up, and there was a bachelorette party there. Which, like, for your own sake, I'm not saying it's a dumb thing. I'm saying go have fun. It's not fun to be you want to talk to each other.
Hmm.
But so they wanted to talk to each other, and they wanted to talk to the comedian. And to be fair, it was probably his fault because he kept engaging with them. But after like the seventh time, I was like, "You guys got to go. It's just not working." Everyone else is booing. People are getting up and leaving. People are arguing with the bartenders. It's a mess. So I shot him. That's what I did. I shot him each one by one.
I mean, like that's efficient, right? Like it's a quick way
Yeah.
to with the problem. And back on the subject of like interruptions, I brought it up mostly because I went to go see David Cross live in Boston 2 months ago.
How was that?
Like, there was just like a handful of people in the front of it who like were trying to like converse with him during his stand up, and it was one of those things where you just get secondhand embarrassments from like someone thinking that like a form of behavior is so acceptable. Like he was telling
Yeah.
a story and he was like, "Oh yeah, I went to Machu Picchu with my friend Bob," and someone in the front row just goes, "Was it Bob Odenkirk?" Like like
Oh
interrupting.
no. just
Weird, just so fucking bizarre.
just yeah, people getting boozed up and behaving insanely. I was out in front of the club here in town the other night watching the bouncers kick someone out. It wasn't a show that I had been on. I had been at a different one, but I was watching them kick the dude out, and it was just so funny the way he was like, do you even know who, do you even, it's just, and I'm just imagining being that guy, being the, was it Bob Odenkirk guy waking up the next morning. Like, how do you feel? Are you like, oh no, or you're like, yeah, hell yeah, that was
Like you don't regret it whatsoever. I feel like people call it like NPC mindset. Like you're not thinking for yourself. Like that's just your prime directive.
I mean, that's cool. That's a cool way to be. Imagine how much neuroticism you would avoid if that's how you went through life. Like just like a lot of confidence, and like, you're making mistakes all the time, but they're never hurting your feelings. It's
Of course.
kind of cool. I mean, I'd like to be that way.
You don't have an inner monologue to like
Yeah.
subject yourself to any form of self-criticism, and you just
Right.
along your day. It sounds like a great way to live.
It does. And I understand how pretentious this sounds because it's like, they're not geniuses like us who analyze every aspect of our behavior. Which I do and I am, but that's neither here nor there.
Andrew Vickers, are you a self-conscious human being? Are you a very self-conscious guy?
Yeah, I think I was telling my wife this the other day because our daughter is about to be 2, and I clocked her feeling embarrassed for the first time. It was the first time I ever observed her have that emotion. I don't know if it was the first time she had it, but the situation was there were a lot of people around. It was the holidays, grandparents, whatever, and she did something she shouldn't do, and a bunch of people told her no at the same time. And usually it's just me or my wife. So it was so overwhelming that she got the little pouty lip, and you could see on her face that she was embarrassed. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I'm kind of clocking her having that emotion for the first time. And my wife was like, why is that crazy? And I was like, because if I think about it, I think that's the first, I think that's the earliest emotion I recall having. Like my earliest memory is being embarrassed.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the first time she felt it, but it was the first time I like watched it. I was like, oh, okay, shit. Look out for that. Try and, whatever, I don't know, support her around that. But it was funny because I was like, and the first time it was like one of my earliest memories. I was, however old you are when you start having memories, what is it for? Something like that.
Something around then.
Yeah, I was young and I farted and I was like in the middle of a group of other kids, but they were a little older. So they were maybe like 6 or 8 or something. And these two girls turned around and they went, ew. And I recall so like clearly, I went like this. I went, oh, ooh, oh no. I looked around and then ran away and wept for about 10 to 15 minutes by myself in the corner.
Well, at least it hasn't stuck with you for 30 years, at least.
No, 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 no. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. I don't think about what those women think of me now. I don't think about that. You probably do. Shut up.
And what they're up to, I definitely don't like ask if they still remember it or anything along those lines.
Yeah. I'm not calling them their husbands. Could you stop doing this, please? This is highly inappropriate. But yeah, are you self-conscious? Do you feel like you have the inner like the criticism all the time?
Yeah, but like I for sure I am like the most self-conscious person ever. I think it kind of benefits me sometime because I am like always like looking for criticism on stuff. Like
Yeah.
anything I do, like musically, creatively, anything I write, like whenever I bring it to like a friend that I trust, like I always feel like self-conscious, a little shitty about what I write, and I just always want someone else's opinion to like mold it and morph it and kind of like sharpen it and make it better. So I feel like in a way being very self-conscious helps me out from time to time. Do you feel the same?
Oh, for sure, dude. But do you have tell me if you have a friend, do you have the different friends, the one that's going to be honest and the one that you go to if you just need a little bit of comfort, you need a little bit of like, I want to be told this is great no matter what.
Of course, the you could call them the grandma friends,
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Wow, you told those jokes all by yourself.
Yeah, that's what they say. And then I know, okay, these are really bad.
I do appreciate the criticism, but like you also don't want too many opinions to mold your work or change your work or change what you're about to do. So I feel like there's a balance between trying to make something to appease like everybody else and taking everyone else's opinions in stride and just making something that you yourself are proud of.
Yeah, for sure. You can't listen to too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. They don't know you that well. I mean, and also like the ego doesn't really have, I don't know if you have this. My ego doesn't really have a strong middle ground, It getting off stage is never like, oh, that was pretty good. Actually, it is now. But I should say in the beginning, getting off stage was never like, oh, that was pretty good. It could have been better. It was either I'm the biggest piece of shit that's ever lived. My father was right about me. I've never been funny. Or it's I'm the king of this city, and these motherfuckers can't even follow me on their best day. That's the only two things that like I ever thought. And so having a bunch of people giving you feedback is just too much of that, So I think like, yeah, in order to keep a middle ground of like, hey, mostly what we all are is just kind of fine. You need a fewer cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's funny that you like find yourself on like those two extremes and like you're never in the middle. But I'm glad you are now that you're doing it more consistently in a city where, the city that's seemingly built on comedy now.
Yeah, it seems that way. Everyone knows about it, which is crazy. You just go like, you're waiting in line. Like I said, you're waiting in line for coffee. It's the conversation that the two people are having behind you is about going to the mothership tonight to see Tony Hinchcliffe. That's what they're talking about. It's a huge part of the city now.
I've heard people describe comedy as like the purest creative meritocracy. Like in some other creative environments, like, someone could get from one place to another solely through their connections, but like you can't bribe your way into other people finding you funny. Like people either find you funny or they don't find you funny.
Yeah, I think so. I think, yes, in terms of getting respect from other comedians, I would just say though that like the funniest people I know are like not famous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. Some of the funniest people I know are famous, but like a lot of the funniest comedians I know are in Boston and aren't. So it's like being funny is the baseline,
mm-hmm.
but it's also not a sure thing. You're not going to like have a career where you make money necessarily if you're the funniest comedian in the country. In terms of as far as comedians are concerned, you're only going to like get respect if you're funny,
Mhm.
but also being funny is not necessarily going to make your career.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt the same way when I first started doing for the very brief period in my life where I tried doing stand-up comedy at the open mics that I would hit. I was living in Delaware, very exciting state to live in.
Yeah.
Uh, and there were some regulars at like this small club. They would just perform to about 40 people once a week, every single week. And they were some of the funniest people I had ever seen in my life. And I was just like blown away.
Yeah, they all have like ridiculous names like Fat Bob and stuff. Like it's all
Some of them, and then some of them are just like completely like average everyday people who would just like go
yeah,
up and absolutely murder the smallest room you've ever seen. They
yeah,
murder it effortlessly. They wouldn't even break a sweat. And
yeah,
it really made me kind of like step back and as you were talking about, like reconsider what I define as like success or
yeah,
like the merits of success because I'm a huge fan of SNL. I love SNL as
yeah,
flawed as it is. And after I would like go to those open mics and see these like regulars killing with 40 people, I'd like watch an SNL skit that would just kind of be bland and unfunny. And I'm like, I
yeah,
know a guy in the middle of Delaware who is
yeah,
infinitely funnier than like anyone in this sketch right now.
yeah. Which is cool, by the way. I think that that's cool. I mean, obviously, I would never say that to that person. I'd be like, "It's so cool that you're unknown." He's like, knocks me out. It's a crazy thing to say,
Yeah.
but dude, stand up has gotten so big, and now everyone has the power to uh, be have put their stuff out there just because of the internet. Everyone's doing the clips and talking about the crowd work things. Everyone has the power to be known, and there's something kind of cool. Maybe I'm over romanticizing it or being nostalgic for something that we never had, but like just imagine traveling to Oklahoma City in the 90s and the local guy is just so good that he buries you, like you're a headliner and you go and this guy's like going to open for you and like who the hell is this guy, and then he's just the best you've ever seen. There's a cool like cowboyish Wild West romance to that style of entertainment, just like being the best. And but then again, you might starve to death. So not ideal. You got to make money.
So I mean, like they're called starving artists for a reason. You gotta live up to the name. What is we were talking about process a little bit, and I feel like people always ask for like, oh, what's the best advice you've ever received? What is the worst advice that you have ever received when you were first starting stand-up comedy?
It's a good question. There was a couple that come to mind. One that was really good advice in general, but was bad advice for me was be more germane, shorten it up, tighten it up, trim the fat. There's a style of stand up that is made famous in the US, especially on the East Coast, especially New York and Boston. That's very, very rapid, very, very like intelligent, a lot of word economy. It's just kind of set up punchline, as many as you can get in a thing. A lot of people go real dorky with it and measure laughs per minute. And some of the best in the world do it that way or started doing it that way. So there's a lot of pressure in those scenes to trim all the fat. If you have something that's 3 minutes long, what you really have is 25 seconds if it's what it should be. I think that that's good advice. I think it was bad advice for me because I'm not that smart of a writer. I'm a decent writer, but I'm not like an intelligent writer. So like my setups and punchlines aren't they don't speak for themselves that way. A lot of what I tend to be better at is like all the extra shit you put in to make it funny, expressions and stuff. So I was trying to do that. I was trying to do that. I was trying to take that advice, but it was kind of like stylistically constraining a little bit. But whatever. That's kind of good for young people. I think it's good for young people that are artists. I don't know who said it, but someone said it. Someone smart said it like that. When you start in an art form, you're supposed to have a lot of constrictions put on you, and like your sort of the natural creativity that got you interested in the first place kind of has to be stifled a little bit so that you have the constituent parts, like the ingredients enough that you can be competent in it. And then you can bring all that stuff back in later. So now that I've talked myself through it, I've decided that wasn't actually bad advice.
Well, that
That's
was
probably,
actually pretty good advice. And like I
yeah.
get what you're saying because your personality, you don't really strike me as like a quick, rapid, high energy like comedian, but
Yeah.
like everyone has like a different rhythm and comedy is all rhythm. Like you would never give that advice to is it Stephen Wright who is like the really
Oh
slow,
yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
slow, thought out but like quick punchlines. Like you would never tell him
Right.
jazz that up and inject it with
Right. Yeah, you would never say that. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure someone did, and then he probably tried to for a couple of years, and then he went back to being himself, which is like a genius, and then he was fine. So what I'm saying is, much like Steven right now, maybe who knows? Hopefully one day. Other bad advice. I got real bad advice once that it wasn't so much advice; it was just kind of like a diagnosis. This is like really sappy. But
Right.
when I found out my wife was pregnant, a bunch of people told me, "Oh, well, you will never. Um, sorry, that sucks. That's going to ruin your chances of having a career. You'll never be able to do this, blah, blah, blah." And I believed them. I really, really did. But it made every part of it better. And I'm not saying it like, I'm not saying, by the way, that having a kid will make everyone's career better or their material better, because career I use loosely. I'm still like, I still have a day job, but like everything about stand up got better after having a kid. I don't know if those are related. I'm not saying they are. My material got better, my writing got better, my process got better, and my career got better. I started getting opportunities that I don't even really feel like I deserved at the time, and so I was real grateful for them. So that was really shitty advice. I'm not particularly mad about it, but I think about how much like I took it to heart. I was like, oh shit, they're right. They know what they're talking about. They've been doing it for this long, but it happened. It happened to not be true.
That is shitty advice. That like, I mean,
Yeah.
I get where they're coming from. I obviously I wouldn't know, but like being a parent, I'm sure just is a massive, massive time constraint. So I get where they're coming from, but still, like, screw them.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I was prepared. I was really prepared to listen to what they said. I knew it. Like the second she was born, what I was going to do is I was going to take her. I was going to enlist her in the Ukrainian military. I was going to have her be raised by them so that she could fight the Russians. So I could be free to pursue my dream, like, a true American hero. But I ended up not having to do that, which is kind of a win-win for everyone. But I'm telling you this, if it does start to turn out that it's the case, she's going. She's doing her part. And she knows. I've told her all this. I've told her. I've been like, hey, Mickey Mouse just called me. He told me you got to go to the Ukrainian military. So
I feel like at 2 years old, like maybe you're not like super conversation with your parents, but like, do you try to explain to her what you do? Do you try to like say that daddy tells jokes? Or...
I've never tried to explain it, but sometimes I'll go through my camera roll because she really loves to see pictures of her little baby cousin. So we'll go through the camera roll at least once a day, and a lot of my camera roll is pictures of me and my friends on stage. And so every time she sees that, she goes, "Daddy." And now what has turned into is anytime she ever sees a picture, an image, or a video of someone holding a microphone, whether they're singing or just talking, she says, "Daddy." She thinks it's me. So she gets microphone. So she gets, I think what she gets is dad has a deep, deep problem where he needs to be the center of attention. So I'm just going to see anyone that's talking in front of people is daddy. Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like my love of like creativity and music like definitely came from my mother. And when I was growing up, my mother was in a great like 60s, 70s, and 80s cover band. And like the gimmick was that they were called the Glamour Girls, and they would have like these big outfits and these costumes they would go into as if they were like, these decadent 60s and 70s pop singers.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
my mother, like on the weekends, we'd go to like these big like festivals or concerts where she would play, and she would wear this like big sparkly red dress, and she would wear this giant red wig, and it would be like part of the gimmick for the band. It was like a 10-piece band, but like since she did that when I was so young, I didn't really know that that was like different. Like I was like, oh yeah, no, it's just like what mom does on the weekends. Yeah, no, that's like my mom does that. What are you talking about? Your mother doesn't dress up in a red wig. So like when I'm talking,
That's what moms do.
does.
That is funny, dude, thinking about the things that you didn't realize were weird until you got older.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing,
Mhm.
So how young were you then when you started? You were young when you started getting into music, piano, everything, huh?
Yeah, I think I started playing when I was like 6 or 7, and I think I was just always around it. Like my mother is a phenomenally talented piano player. My grandfather, my uncle, they're all phenomenally talented piano players. So it's something that I kind of like knew I was going to get into. I really hated it though when I was young because I was like classically trained, like very as much as I like love and appreciate the woman who taught me piano now is like, the stereotype of like the old strict piano teacher who like wants you to learn classically, Beethoven, Mozart. You don't get to play any fun stuff.
Oh,
But
dude, please tell me she had a German accent. She hit you with a ruler.
unfortunately, not. She didn't fully meet the stereotype, but that was.
Man, oh, that was
But it,
great.
It's one of those things where like you hate it in the moment when you're like a 9 or 10 year old kid, like you hate learning Mozart and Beethoven, and then when you grow up and you want to start playing in all these like cover bands, you realize that you now have like the knowledge, the foundational knowledge to build upon those skills that let you play whatever you want. It's very similar to what you were talking about with how like when you're first starting out, like you need to have a handle on the basics before you try
Yeah,
anything like
right.
outside the realm of your comforts.
So when you're teaching a kid piano, like if your teacher, when your teacher is teaching a kid piano, when do they start to teach them like a jazz scale, or do they never do that?
I think it really depends on the kid. I'm really not teaching all that much anymore. I'm teaching a little bit, but back when I was living in Delaware, I was teaching far more, and I tried to let like the kid dictate where they wanted to go because I just remembered how much I hated it when I was a kid because the theory was like, hey, you are learning this in this order, and we are not deviating from this at all. So I tried to give as much freedom as I can, like any
Yeah,
direction that the kid showed interest in, I would try to like swerve in that way, but it's pretty advanced stuff. It's a lot of music theory. Like the way that I learn is far more mathematical than I feel like other people learn. The band that I'm in now, it's a country band, and I'm the only musician that kind of plays by theory. Almost everybody else plays by ear, and it's amazing. It blows me away. I can't play by ear. Like I need to really meticulously think out like what I'm doing, like logically think out what I'm doing. And I'm playing with
yeah.
all these guys that just hear something and they could copy it perfectly, and it astounds me. Are
Yeah.
you a musician? I forget if you play anything.
Oh no, I like to, but I'm not. No, I don't really know anything. I play drums, but poorly. I there was a piano in the house growing up, but I never got any lessons. But I like to fuck around with it, you know. But no, I'm not actually a musician. I'm a huge music fan. Of course, I'm a music nerd,
Mhm.
especially piano, especially jazz piano. But yeah, I would love to. Do you teach adults?
The oldest I've taught was 30. I think it's one of those where it's
Just
just
turned
like
30.
learning a language. It's just like learning a language where it is so much easier to learn as a child than it is as an adult. Like I've worked with kids that get infinitely further in a couple weeks than an adult does, just because like, once you turn 18, 19, your brain just closes off the idea that you could possibly need any new skills. Like your evolutionary
Really?
brain
So
is.
is it, I mean, because I've heard this before. Is it like a brain? Is it actually a brain thing, or is it like just you're afraid to you become more afraid to make mistakes? Like,
Oh,
what
I,
is
I
it?
I think it is a brain thing. I think the term is like critical period. Like there's a point where it
Yeah.
becomes infinitely harder to learn skills. Do you see that with your child? Because I know that your wife speaks another language. Forgive me because I forget what it is.
Yeah, we speak Spanish in the house a lot. I mean, I would say my fluency in Spanish is like 65 or 70%, such that like we can have normal life, we can have normal conversation, but if something a little more complex comes up, like, bills or whatever, then I lose it, and then we're in English, and then we forget to go back in Spanish for a while. But there are a lot of words that she just doesn't know in English. Many. She doesn't know any food in English. She doesn't. So she's. It's hard to say because she's still little. But she might be completely bilingual in terms of what she understands right now.
Do you often
Um,
talk about bills with your 2-year-old? Or?
yeah, and you know what pisses me off is that she hasn't offered to help at all. So she contributes nothing. So,
Uh-huh.
and remember that I saved her from the Russians. Remember this, that I could have sent her and I didn't. But no, she has offered to pay none of them. And it pisses me off. But that's c'est la vie. Actually, for you, I have something. Speaking of critical period in music, she wept for the first time recently. Did I tell you this when we were
Oh,
filming?
didn't know.
And it was because of a piece of music. It was a piece of classical music. It's a song, the song Jupiter by the German composer. I forget it. It's the one that goes da 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 da. That one. Anyway, she was watching an orchestra, like a thing. It was on on the TV.
Hmm.
And I have the video here. I can show it to you later when we stop recording. She just starts like weeping, like being moved by the music.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I think this means like either she's from her in her previous life, maybe all her friends died in the trenches in France, and that's why, or maybe like her husband left. I don't know what exactly happened, but or maybe she just has something, and I got to put her in lessons right now. It's too young. When do you start them with a violin or something?
I definitely like too young for a violin, but that's amazing. That's amazing to be like that emotionally intelligent at such a young age.
Yeah,
I know adults that like just aren't open-minded enough to be moved by classical music.
Yeah.
Andrew, it is always good talking to you. It's always I really really love connecting with you. Is there anything that you want to promote here and now?
Oh, I am around Austin. If you're in Austin, I'm always around Austin. You can follow me on Instagram at the Andrew Vickers. I'll be headlining in Janesville, Wisconsin. I know a lot of people who listen to this are in Janesville, Wisconsin, but I'll be headlining there the weekend of Valentine's Day. So bring your sweetie or your mom or your dad and come see us and have a good time.
Oh yeah,
And
I love
dude,
Wisconsin.
thank you so much. This has been great. I'm happy we got to work together on the film, and thanks for having me. You're the man. I appreciate it.